in very large numbers. But the process was to play out. The first state that was contested was Arizona. The debate had just begun shortly after 2 p.m. Eastern. In the middle of the speech from Jim Langford, Republican from Oklahoma, in the Senate, who supports challenging the electoral votes from Arizona, the Senate chamber was evacuated, as was the House, because these protesters stormed the Capitol, breached security barriers, and entered in such a way and with such what appeared to be menacing intent that the Capitol Police felt it was incumbent upon them to rapidly remove the Vice President of the United States, the senators, and eventually members of the House. And that's what was supposed to go on. That's what did happen, and it is now in abeyance because of these occupiers of the United States Capitol.
And then you were just noting this window that is being crawled through right now.
Yes, there were protesters there crawling into the Capitol. Right there.
Windows that overlook the west front of the Capitol, high up like that, and have a balcony are usually leadership offices. Am I correct?
If we could, we'd have to have a wider view of this shot to know exactly which window that is. But the fact that they're able to do this at all just shows you the lack of coherent law enforcement response. The fact that there is still
an ability to repel them.
And that there's still a danger to those inside, and that this has not yet been resolved and is nowhere near being resolved.
No. This is a wanton act of vandalism, and you can see that they are sort of exulting in this desecration of the Capitol, waving and extolling the crowd to cheer them on. That's the mindset of those who are doing this occupation. And to Ed's point, and possibly to Jeff Pegues's point, they're on scene for the hardheads who really want to find a way to make this a confrontation that appears to be coming, because you cannot resolve this without pushing these people well off the stairs and out of the Capitol. And that is going to have to be done by force, because it doesn't appear they're willing to leave voluntarily.
And that image that we just showed you was from inside Pelosi's office, where people have breached the Speaker of the House's office, and
don't know which office specifically, whether it's hers or one of her aides, because it's a large complex of offices. But regardless, they got into that area, which should be rather secure.
With a note that says, "We will not back down." We are told law enforcement is on the way. Eva Nordstrom is our director of special events and directing our coverage today. And as we see protesters still throughout the District of Columbia, we now have a statement from Senator Hawley, who, along with Senator Ted Cruz, had been one of
I had a feeling something like this was going to happen.
This opposition to
Hello.
counting of the electoral.
Senator Hawley was the very first to say he would endorse.
I didn't know when it would happen. I didn't know who would start it.
To bring this debate to
But I knew something like this was going to happen.
Thank you to the brave law enforcement who put their lives on the line. The violence must end, and those who attack police and broke the law must be prosecuted.
I had a clairvoyant feeling.
Back to work and finish its job. Questions about whether
I'm...
the Senate will courageously return to Congress right now.
Those numbers look larger to me, Nora and Ed.
There are these people in America right now
To me, as if there is movement to
who, this is a live broadcast feed,
to repel this crowd, to push it back and regain some of the
who are Trump supporters, who have stormed into the Capitol
concentrated,
in America,
a bit more forceful than they have.
and some of them started shooting inside.
Not Capitol Police. The reinforcements of our MPD there, you see Metropolitan Police Department. Those are the guys that are trained to deal with these.
They are locking down the Capitol to try to make sure everyone in there is safe,
At the Capitol.
so we don't have these insane people.
The Capitol, and these crowds are not going anywhere, at least so far.
Right, and you can see the masks there, and some of this is extravagant, performative, revolutionaryism. There is a
Everyone thinks that they're a hero.
repellent though it is quality to this, and
Yeah.
let's just articulate the natural extension of what they want. They want to disable the.
You can watch us anywhere. Just type in Capitol Storm Live. It's everywhere.
That, ladies and gentlemen,
Just so you know.
is the clinical dictionary definition of mob rule. And that's what they're seeking, and that's what their actions represent. There is no other way to describe it.
Let's go down to Jeff Pegues. Series, who is outside.
These Trump supporters are crazy.
Just the west front
They are
of
crazy.
The Capitol. And Jeff, is it fair to say that one of the concerns is that we're close to?
I have so many comments. So many, but I'm not going to say any of them right now. I'm going to gather up my collection of thoughts before I even say anything. The only thing I can really say right now is this is devastating. More than devastating. This isn't a YouTube channel. This is live on CNN, Fox News, everywhere. In America right now.
With all these people, and they're, by my estimate, probably about 1,000, couple thousand people, perhaps.
I'm watching the news on your TV. I'm watching it on my phone. I'm watching it live.
So I'm still waiting to see if we're gonna see more law enforcement showing up
NBC.
to help calm this situation down, because it's still relatively volatile. You have a crowd here, or people in this group, who are intent on breaching this Capitol building. In fact, I just walked up there a few minutes ago and I heard someone say, "This is civil war." I mean, these are the things that you're hearing in this crowd, and just behind me now, you see another,
And Jeff, I miss.
We heard that pop.
And Jeff, I misspoke earlier, but
They're creating civil war. That's why.
So, wintertime it comes.
They're trying to
So we're
incite
just
a
half
civil
an hour
war.
now, from sunset, and it's already a very rowdy and mob-like crowd, and that's one of the concerns. As Jeff Begays noted, some have gone home, but others are waiting for that confrontation. Jeff, I've been asking all day for a summary of the number of law enforcement that have been called in to help. Do you know what that is?
Well, we don't have exact numbers, but we know that about 300 members of the National Guard were activated for this day here in D.C. And you had, obviously, Metro Police Department officers here as well. You have Capitol PD. So there should be a sizable force of law enforcement. But what we've seen is that today, at least, they've been slow to react. I mean, everybody knew going into this day that there would be this march toward the Capitol. Everybody knew that, but for some reason, it just appears that law enforcement today was slow to react to the number of people who descended on Washington for this event. This event that they called Save America event.
That's funny.
And so what you see
Why were they
is
slow?
the result of that.
Because they
You
were
had this-
Republican.
You had this massive crowd gathering here on the Capitol.
If it's a Democratic
Some people climbing the wall
protest,
here, and law enforcement,
they'll go right in and start a fucking thing.
responded
But then when it's Republicans, oh no, they won't do
to
crack.
get this situation under control.
Jeff Begays outside the Capitol there, and it's been an extraordinary day, as we've already heard from the President-elect Joe Biden saying this must end. He called it an assault on the citadel of liberty, the representatives, the public servants, an assault on the rule of law.
Alexa,
and an
turn on my
assault
bedroom.
our most sacred institutions of democracy. He said these scenes do not represent all that we are, that they are a small group of extremists. The Republican leader in the House of Representatives on our air, and probably one of the most incredible interviews of our career, sounding emotional, angry, saying he specifically had called President Trump, told him to address the nation, called the president's chief of staff, imploring him to address the nation and call for an end to the violence, suggesting that those words in that short video that the president just released would essentially cause these protesters that have been riled up for months to just go home. It's clear they're not listening. It's clear that they are bearing down at this moment. They're bearing down for a confrontation with law enforcement. And yes, Ed, you have something.
Forgive me, they may not have heard the message yet. Because they're out there.
Trump incited this.
And they may not be looking at their phones.
They
that's
even
why
said it.
He may have tweeted this and said it, but we don't know.
Trump
that it's actually reached the
had incited this.
That was my only point. Forgive me for.
And I think we would all agree, Nora, listening as we all had a chance to ask Leader McCarthy numerous questions, I detected a modicum of helplessness in his voice. I don't think he felt he had any real ability to get control of this situation. That this was a whirlwind that he was being pulled into, and all members of the House and Senate had been pulled into in ways that he found unexpected, even though he is the leader of the House Republican Conference and a very close and stalwart ally, as we've said, of President Trump, and very familiar with Mark Meadows, the current White House Chief of Staff, and the entire conversation within the Trumpian world, which he is a regular part of. I detected in his voice, I want this to stop, and I'm not sure it can or I can stop it. I don't know if you heard the same thing, but as I've been listening to it in my head, I heard it.
I did. I detected that same sense of not only sort of a sense of sadness, but a sense of disbelief that it had reached this moment. But President-elect Biden said the words of a president matter, no matter how great or how bad. They can inspire or they can incite. And today they incited. And they incited the crowd and the mob that is at the United States Capitol today. They were incited by Rudy Giuliani, who earlier in the day said, let this be trial by combat. And to this group of fervent supporters of the President of the United States, they took those words and they used them not only as a rallying cry, but as marching orders. And thus have marched to...
You can watch this anywhere.
The back steps of the Capitol.
Type in Capitol Storm Live.
Where the most important debates of our nation take place and into the Speaker of the House's office. They are now standing on the very steps and on the podium where President-elect Joe Biden will be sworn into office 2 weeks ago. No matter what happens, Congress will fulfill its ultimate duty as this final step in just doing what is a perfunctory matter and counting these electoral votes. But what we're witnessing now is really...
I'm seeing it through CNN.
As politicians who, as their profession, use their words to encourage support and action are now unable to pull back what they have created. And those lawmakers who serve on Capitol Hill, who regularly incite through rhetoric different types of passions, have abandoned the citadel of democracy, the U.S. Capitol. They're no longer there. One of the first to leave was the Vice President of the United States.
Well, we don't know whether they've entirely left the Capitol complex itself. In fact, speaking with some lawmakers, it's members of the Senate are still in and around Capitol Hill itself, but they may not be in the actual building. They're all connected through tunnels. But I just...
Meeting in the...
This
Capitol after being incited by the President of the United States. This is a shameful day, but I would not be deterred from
This is just happening. This has been happening for a few hours now.
What are you calling on your colleagues to do in terms of counting those electoral votes?
Well, I'm calling on them to stay here and
These people count themselves as Republicans. Keep that in mind.
located in a safe location in the Capitol. They have collected us from all of the
These protesters say that they are Republican. There is such a stigma with our two-party system because of Trump now. I don't know if we'll ever restore it.
This is such an important piece of news, Senator Duckworth. The electoral votes are secure. They are secure with the senators who are in a secure place there in the United States Capitol. And what is your understanding from leadership about, so your understanding is everybody wants to get this done tonight?
Well, from the Democratic side, I'm chatting with the Democratic senators. I've not had a chance to sit down and chat with the Republican side. The Democratic senators are on a group chat together, and that has been our consensus. We're chatting back and forth that we want to continue. I am going to approach some of my Republican colleagues and try to encourage them to agree to move forward and to pressure Senator McConnell into reconvening the Senate so that we can move forward.
And are you just secure with Democratic senators and the Republican senators are secure?
2021 is the transition.
We are all together.
This is the transition.
Including staff members. And what they're doing right now is they're doing roll call. They're calling senators' names and finding those who were not on the floor and bringing those senators. They're sending out, for example, myself,
forces, as you know, sunset in just about 10 minutes from now. We see a number of the Metro DC police. We've been told that additional National Guard have been approved by the Pentagon, by the Secretary of the Army, that Maryland and Virginia are also willing to assist. Do you have any understanding to the senators with you about how they're going to move and disperse this crowd?
Well, we are getting a briefing every 20 minutes or so from the Capitol Police. They're coming in the room and giving us a quick briefing. My understanding is that they're working on clearing the Capitol right now, and that we are just holding tight. Again, we want to make sure that we track down all the staff members that are here and all, and everybody is secure. I will tell you that being over here with the team that brought me over, we certainly went past quite a large number of Capitol Police, as well as some uniform National Guard personnel who are already on location, and that we are as safe as we can possibly be where we are at right now. But all that we're seeing on TV right now is just what's being broadcast, which is I think, is video footage from earlier in the day, because it's showing that people are, walking around through the Capitol Rotunda and the like, and we're watching the officers briefing, and I think it's Secretary of the Army speaking right now.
The fact that Trump manipulated the two-party system to this extreme
Senator Duckworth, Major Garrett, I know in the Capitol there are two families.
is unbelievable.
The Senate family. I know you're all one big family.
I've been saying this not online on social media because I try to not be political, but this is too far. I'm going to state my mind on something.
Best case scenario, when do you think the Senate might reconvene? Tonight?
Tonight, definitely. I mean, that is what
The fact that the police are not immediately taking violent force to these Republicans, and yet they will do it to Democrats, is unbelievable. I have never seen a Democrat, I've never seen a Democratic extremist or anybody storm the Capitol.
Senator, I must ask you about the culpability of what
Yet when they have peaceful protests, they get shot.
Kevin McCarthy,
And yet these
supporters of the president,
These people.
He said he'd called the president and asked the president to address the nation, who recorded a short message
Don't get shot.
claiming that the election was fraudulent. And then
They
time to go home now.
do their best to make it peaceful.
Where do you place the blame?
When they are going inside the actual place and they have shot in there. And yet they
He is the one who is pressuring governors of states like Georgia and secretaries of state of states like Georgia to find him missing votes. He is the one that is rejecting their.
I've said this countless of times to people that I know in private. I'm going to say it online on social media right now. The two-party system is flawed. This is the result of the two-party system being flawed. And when you have a president who abuses and incites this type of stuff, he takes it and he uses it for his own gain. I hope so. I am right with you. I hope democracy prevails too. But I think this is a definite eye-awakening of we need change. We need some type of change to where this never happens again.
Senator Duckworth, stand by. I want to ask our control room as well to put up in a banner that the DC mayor is in is not only ordering, but enforcing a 6 p.m. curfew.
Perfect.
Because I think the news plays an important role as well in importing.
Should be earlier. Get them all out now.
Factual information, and it's our understanding as well that what is being
they
now outside the Capitol via
they do a curfew and giving them proper, ample enough time to leave. But when Democrats peacefully protest, like legitimately peacefully protest, they don't give them ample amount of time. They just start going and shooting them.
Via bullhorn, 6 p.m. curfew.
I'm gonna just start. I'm just gonna start.
Police been telling you, Senator?
Two-party system's flawed. We need to be voting for who's right in office, not because they're Republican or Democrat. Fuck that.
Senator Duckworth, again, Major Garrett. I know you might not have been briefed on this, but I'm just curious, since we have you, a very good source of mine, very connected on all things Capitol Hill, just texted me and said that the word is that the House is going to go into session, but not in the House chamber, but in the Ways and Means Committee,
This is,
which is a very large
for anyone who's a liberal out here in America, this is exactly what you can show people to say, oh, it's all the Democrats' fault. The Democrats are the violent ones. Show them this. These Republicans went into the Capitol building and started shooting up the place. I've never seen a Democrat do that.
We are pretty tightly gathered together here, but it is the best condition we possibly can, and we are all safe, and we want to continue. So that's good news indeed. The House does go back into session, because I would like the Senate to go back into session. So.
You know, Senator, on that very point, this morning before tens of thousands, Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump Jr. Were the warm-up acts for the president, and Rudy Giuliani's called for trial by combat. The president's son, Don Jr., told congressmen who weren't going to vote to overturn the election, quote unquote, "We're coming for you." How important is it for members of Congress to not act or show that their duty has been delayed or rather stopped because of that rhetoric and the actions of this mob?
They even give him them threatening messages, and yet the police do nothing. They don't use violent force to the Republicans.
Not just for our nation and our democracy, but for the world to see that in America, nothing will stop the democratic process from moving forward, and that the will of the people will be carried out, and that
It's like
here in the Senate,
America
will not be deterred by law.
is still trying to suppress people.
And I think we'll leave it at that. Senator Duckworth, we thank you so much for your time, for sharing what you know, gathered there with all of the other senators in a secure location, and with the, as Senator Duckworth first reported, with the electoral votes secure, that in her words, a very smart, quick-thinking staffer said, let's
What's
get
the
the
most
treasure.
important piece of paper in this chamber? Or
Right.
pieces of paper, envelopes. Gather them, secure them, keep your wits about you. I can only say on behalf of the entire American process and democracy, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of what's going on Capitol Hill. I'm seeing this picture on the west front of the Capitol, that doorway, that window.
The world can't be calm. There are too many people inside of it.
They're welding material with them, and maybe they're welding and opening up the doors, with welding material. Then it struck me that perhaps it's the law enforcement from inside the Capitol shining their bright lights out and saying, move back, in a way to begin the disbursement, with lights. I just can't tell. I wonder if someone can shed light on, if Jeff Pegues, I know it's a difficult vantage point, but it does appear that those...
They're essentially, in my limited recollection of what law enforcement carries up there, it appears to be either
Is it like a strobe
a
flashlight?
strobe flashlight, either that they carry separate from their weapon, or that might be on some longer weapons up there. And it's just very difficult to tell from this vantage point.
I'm being told they are strobe lights from likely weaponry in order to distract that is being used, most likely coming from law enforcement.
Right.
So they are
Hard to
using
look into that.
Right. Imagine that if you were trying to storm the Capitol through that entryway and law enforcement is shooting back the strobe
Right.
lights, it is difficult for you to see and move forward. However, you see that group there does not appear to be moved back by it at all.
But this is the kind of difficult situation that's going to have to be deconstructed here in the coming hours.
This just tells you, America, every other country is not above third world countries. They are not.
The House and Senate clamoring to reconvene, even if they don't do it in the House and Senate chambers.
Yeah. And I do want to be precise in my language because I do believe that I have called this a protest, which I believe earlier in the day, many of these supporters of the president were engaged in a protest. At this point, it is being called a mob or an insurrection. They are inciting violence, and they have been asked by, and it is illegal to be on the Capitol grounds as they are now. Jeff Begayes, I want to bring in now. And Jeff, can you explain what's happening
And yet
right now?
and yet the police are not showing any violent force. None. And yet when Democrats do an actual peaceful protest and are as insane as this, they use extreme violent force. I'll just keep on saying it.
Sort of nudging people toward the exits, if you will. Just in a line of police officers, we saw them just slowly moving people toward the exits. And the people that they were trying to...
There is a double standard in America with the Democratic and Republican Party. And it is going to be the death of us one day. Coming from a clairvoyant person who predicted something like this would happen. They're probably going to
because as we've noted, the sun is going down. It is getting darker out here, and we see more. That may be tear gas there. That may be tear gas. Coming.
I'm waiting, police. Show the same type of force that you did for the Democrats. You better do it.
Just beyond the crowds that have gathered there, you see this yellow plume. It looks like smoke, but we're being told that it is tear gas.
Okay, stand by, Jeff.
Periodically, we're hearing.
Stand by, Jeff. We're going to stay up on that.
These are not
Stand by.
protesters.
Just want to quickly bring
These
in
Republicans are not
Catherine Choi.
protesters.
She's a former FBI agent who
This is not a
specializes
peaceful
now in
protest.
mass events. And Catherine, how does law enforcement get a large crowd like this to disperse? And what do those images that we're showing now tell you about what they're trying to do?
I know, it is a challenge, as you can hear, even just for Jeff, you can hear that he's breathing in tear gas, and that's why his voice is the way he sounds. The challenge for law enforcement as darkness is now approaching because it's sunset right now, is they are going to have to divide and conquer. That's the only way that you can take a large crowd and find a way to disperse it. So
If you want to watch this, you can watch it anywhere.
secure the building
Anywhere.
before they can try to empty the building out.
This isn't
Once they secure the
for me. This is for you guys. This is knowledge for you guys to know what's happening right now.
each individual corridor, building, office, and that's
There it goes.
so that the building is secure, but there's also the basement and all the floors above. So for the big crowd
See that
outside,
smoke?
you know, a lot of times what happens that we
That's
see
not
in
just
this kind
smoke.
of mob situation, terrorist situation, and people who are inciting riots, is they're all about getting to the site, but they don't really know how to get away from the site. Once they get there, they don't
It's not
really have a
fire.
plan. And I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yep.
It's sunset,
Rings the Fox got it.
location with no bathrooms, no food. It's getting kind of cold. It's going to be down to 30. They've been out all day. And so that will probably take the law enforcement suggestions to disperse.
Catherine, we're seeing the disbursement efforts going on right now. I got to go back to Jeff Begayes because we hear the sound of a bang and what appears to be either tear gas or something like that. Jeff?
we just see, you know, in the last couple of minutes, we're just seeing things escalate a bit here. We have 5, 6, or 7 bangs and more smoke. But what is remarkable to me is that we don't see too many in the crowd moving toward the exit. They're just sort of camped out there. No matter what law enforcement does in terms of these flashbangs and tear gas, they're just sort of camped out there. All right, so things have calmed down a little bit. I don't know if law enforcement is going to start another round
No,
of these flashbangs.
you
I
can see
suspect
the
that they
you
will.
can see the law enforcement right on one of the arches of those windows, pushing supporters out. Actually,
Yes.
that's what it looks like, saying "Get out."
Yeah.
It looks like
And they're
concerted
crawling out of
eviction
offices.
effort.
They're
Yes.
crawling out of other offices.
Yes.
Having already penetrated those rooms by breaking the glass and climbing in. This is a very narrow balcony on the west front. So to get these people off of here, they're going to have to find a staircase to get them to. And you can see people now rubbing their eyes.
Yes.
And sort of ducking their heads
And
from
you see
what is
larger numbers than we've seen before coming out of that central entryway with 2 doors, and you see people withdrawing. It's essentially withdrawing,
Yeah.
pulling back, quite obviously under threat of arrest and other consequences, and more flashbangs. You can see the chemical irritant, whatever it is. We don't know precisely what it is.
And here comes you can see you can hear Jeff say definitely tear.
And Jeff,
Okay.
why do you say it's definitely tear gas?
Oh, just the color of it. It's this yellow.
Yes.
There's this yellow tint to that smoke.
Correct.
We do have flashbangs mixed in there. I think I got that right. We do have some former law enforcement with us. They're here helping us describe some of the flashes and the bangs that we're seeing. But clearly this is that point that we thought would come, where police are stepping up their efforts to clear the Capitol building. That's what you're seeing right now. And now you see this, it looked like a firecracker, but it's not. It's obviously a flashbang as they try to clear people out.
Jeff Begay, stand by. We're going to continue to monitor this scene. I want to bring in Michael Morrell, the former acting director of the CIA and national security analyst for CBS News. And Mike, thank you. I guess I need to ask you first about, since you have been at the CIA, how our adversaries may be using, looking, watching at these images.
Nora, it's good to talk to you. It's a terrible.
I'm going to go now.
You know, I think there's 2 things happening overseas.
This is going to go on forever.
What's going through the mind of
Everyone,
adversaries, you know,
be
Chinese
safe in the next
and
couple of
the
days.
Russians and others.
Please.
And I think they see this
I have a
as
sense
significant
of
opportunity.
multiple of these small little groups.
One is
They're going to go
will
and
to their own
do
people.
terrible things around
They will say,
other
"This is what
places.
democracy brings, so you should
And it's only
absolutely
me
have
judging under the fact of what people do and what people are.
And secondly, they'll share it with
This
the
is
rest of the
scary.
world, with the talking points that
If you live in America right now, be safe.
to bring the rest of the world, when it talks about
Don't do anything stupid.
so that's an effort to try to reduce our influence.
Stay home, protect yourself for COVID.
What our adversaries are doing, Nora. What our friends are doing is wondering what is happening. I received a text earlier today from a foreign ambassador to the
This is
UN
embarrassing.
back in his
This
capital,
is
and he said he was sitting
awful. The
his
whole
people,
world and everyone's probably
trying to
watching this.
explain what was happening here, and he was at a loss for words.
Yeah, that's still being stormed right now.
There's effects here on
This
both
isn't.
our adversaries and on our allies and
This just shows to all the people who have been ignorant over America for years
I don't think so.
that
I think this
America needs proper,
and create
actual, genuine, positive change and not what Trump tried to do.
the Russians did not play significantly in the 2020 election.
Because what he did was incite
They did
this.
in 2016. So
I,
I'm afraid we own this.
my heart is breaking
Michael, it's
that
Keith, good to talk to you.
I have lived through I have lived through 9/11. I have lived through all these different things, seeing it on the news.
Was there ever anything like
And
this
now I'm living through seeing this.
No, Ed, that's a really
These
good
people
question.
wanting to
And of all the scenarios,
make a civil war.
where we talked about risks to the United States and risks to
Thank
our
you that you like
economy,
watching me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
risks to our country, you know, this was never on the list.
Everybody,
We never
stay
anticipated,
informed. Be smart.
anything like this. So no, simply not thought about.
Don't be going into large crowds right now. Because, first off, you shouldn't be going in large crowds right now because of COVID. And now because of this in America, don't you dare go out into large crowds. Please stay safe.
kind of event or incident. There's the ongoing
Okay.
cybersecurity